Newcastle. Vibes on vibes on vibes. Caused a commotion. Batlile ka spilione. Like the crowd went wild. It was amazing. So beautiful, beautiful conflict resolution in action. Kile Shapela Matoko, my kings. And the subtext is then, why do you now want to be stepping up to come and reprimand my child when you couldn't step up to raise him when the time was necessary for him to have family there? Now you just want to call him and slaza him on TV about the things that he's not doing. I don't know how you think you have authority as Abafana to come and tell this boy about what he should and shouldn't be doing when you haven't even paid a single cent yet damages. You haven't even done any sort of ceremony for anything. But you want to come and tell him when he's out of order. Yes, he might be out of order. But lilona lisakolota la shota on your side with very many things. Abafana baka Mqgumeni, guys, the hosts. Do they not enter? We're not on the stage yet. They're just entering the venue. Ka a horse-drawn carriage. And who is drawing? Who's there at the front with a whip for the horses? None other than a white man, guys. Mlungu, right there in Newcastle. I was like, Sanvonani Emakaya. Welcome, guys, to Ragadi's Views. And welcome, Sanvonan. We are doing Kings of Maskandi. So our Maskandi Kings review for episode 7 this week. Ragadi, amogelas everybody. And I'm so glad that you are here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please know that you are welcomed with open arms. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you for viewing. Please don't forget to subscribe. And please don't forget to like and to click on the notification bell button so that you know when I upload new content and when I've got the latest episode. Because those who've been here for a while now also know, unfortunately, Rakadi, upload kanako. Rakadi's getting there, but like, God is still working on me, guys. So grace. I embrace myself with grace. And please embrace yourselves with grace too, guys. Hey, there's a lot going on in life. Life is lifing. So I'm here for episode 7 of Maskandi Kings. And we start off the episode at the Imbizo in Newcastle. And it's going down. So the opening acts, all the mentees, they performed last week. So we start now with, the Nkunzis are now on the stage. The Nkabis are on the stage. Now, I should be saying Nkabis, hey, on TV. Things are real in South Africa right now. Bad connotations, bad words. The Nkunzis are on the stage. So we start off with Bahube. He comes out and Shame gave a great performance. He was even just like, the way that, the audience, Yasin Newcastle, welcomed him. He was just so overwhelmed by the love and the support. He is a celebrity of the moment now because Sobahube, for those who didn't watch season 1, he won the title of King of Maskandi in season 1. So, that sort of elevated his status and his notoriety a lot more. So I think that's like now when he goes to places like Newcastle, people are just lifting him up and loving him. And he's a great performer. He's actually a very good performer. Great performance. We enjoyed that. Ukulegani Shongwe comes out on stage. He's now also like, what's going on? Because as he's making his way to the stage with his team, these girls and boys who are dressed in a uniform, you can tell. I think they're like a local, dance group or something. And they were like, Yazin, we are going to get on a stage in front of a camera. No maganjan. So they came, those kids, and they were like dancing with him and they sort of joined his group and his dance team, Bamufeleta onto the stage. And he was also like, I didn't know what was going on. And they were like, no, their name is the Pink Team, and they're here to support him. So once they got on stage, the pink team was standing behind his dance crew, backing him up, also doing their dances. And it was really cute. It was really beautiful to see. He was also just overwhelmed and just very grateful for the support, that he was receiving and the love that he was getting there on the stage. Beautiful. Then we had Abafana Mqgumeni, guys. Guys, the hosts. Do they not enter? Enter. We're not on the stage yet. They're just entering the venue. Got a horse-drawn carriage. And who is drawing? Who's there at the front with a whip for the horses? None other than a white man, guys. Mlungu, right there in Newcastle. I was like the one highlighter. One in the whole crowd. I mean, the crowd went wild. Wild. People were loving it. I was also just like, this is so strange because nobody's getting married. Didn't really make sense for me as to why a horse-drawn carriage. But then when they came in, no shame, vibes, vibes on vibes on vibes, caused a commotion. Batlile spilione, like the crowd went wild. It was amazing. So that was fantastic. They got off their carriage. Pictures were being taken. No shooting. You are shoot, 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 shoot. And then they got onto the stage. Gave it. Okay, gave it. They performed hands down. The three kings of Maskandi, our Maskandi kings, our leads of the show, they're actually very good. This is what I'm going to say. Season one, I can't really judge, and I don't want to judge properly the performances and the dancing and everything because it's all very new for me. So it's not, I've never been to a Maskandi performance. I've never seen these things. So Hanekidi born, it was like, oh, this is interesting. Like it's entertaining, but I couldn't really judge like the standard of is it good or is it bad. I don't know. But what I'm gonna tell you is that judging the performances from season one and season two, there is a huge difference. Like people have really been putting in money, time, and energy into honing their crafts. I'm going to give them all the credit, all the credit. Our three kunzis of Maskandi Kings that no, they brought it. They are bringing it. They are bringing it this year. It's actually going to be very difficult, I think, to pick a winner. Anyway, so Abafana get off, they finish their performance. Then Unelisani comes back from Abafana, and now he's busy talking to our MC. They are talking about no, can some of the local artists come and perform on the stage? Hi, MC's like, no, my brother. Even just gets away from the microphone, and he was like, no, that's not how this thing is gonna go. There was an order of events. Everybody knows that after Abafana Mqgumeni have performed, nobody else performs. He's like, people are already counting the votes there. So there's no way that we can have other performances. If they came late, they came late. Like there's nothing that we can do. He's like, I'm closing the show. Unelisani was upset. There was just head gestures. It was a bit tense. But Ukulegani MC stood his ground and they counted the votes. We don't know who the winner is. We might find out at the next episode, like from Imbizo number one. Um then all the men meet after the Imbizo. They're having a little, sit down with everybody. So all the Maskandi Kings, MC, and their mentees. And they get there, and then Kulegani MC is basically just like, what he's putting on the table for discussion is the commotion that happened at the end of the Mbizo, where Unelisani came up onto the stage and was fighting to have local artists perform. And what Ukulegani MC was trying to emphasize is that there is a certain way of working that we have all agreed on, and wanting to change things, kadi last minute, basically, Unelisani, non tella, my brother, at the end. It was disrespect to come and do what you did on the stage in front of all of these people. And Uba Hube in his comment was also just like, yeah, in the diary, he was also just like, yeah, no, it seems like, Abafana Mqgumeni were just trying to do their own things and it's not on. So then Unelisani, he then speaks up and tries to explain the situation. And he was like, listen, the local artists back on Newcastle, we are the hosts. So, we picked up some guys who were going to perform there. And so we are at home, we're getting dressed, we're getting phone calls from them saying, they're not being allowed to perform on stage. Others are calling us, telling us they've been taken off the stage mid performance, which last episode we actually did see. The MC stopped whoever was performing and he was just like, get off the stage. We don't know what the context was, Uguti, were they just not doing the things to make the pods to happen and they were unprepared, or we don't know why he stopped them from performing, but that did happen. We can roll the tape. That one happened. So, then Unelisan is like, then those artists showed up at our house while we're getting ready and they are complaining, bakupa di refund. So I think the artists had obviously paid Abafana to perform. I don't know, some sort of performance fee. And so Nelisani is like, now this is going to be bad for us and our reputation. And so part of why he came onto the stage, guns blazing, fighting for these local artists to sing was because clearly they had made promises that these guys could perform. But what I appreciate and I respect Unelisani about was that he apologized and he said that he was out of line and he should not have addressed it the way that he addressed it. For him, he was just fighting for, their reputation and that they'd made promises, but he went about it the wrong way. He was in the wrong. Askis, I'm sorry. I love that because Maskandi Kings is once again showing us a demonstration of men in a real positive light, and it's not just the toxic aspects of masculinity, because masculinity by nature, as far as I'm concerned, is not toxic. Femininity and masculinity can't be toxic things. It's when we now come and put it into our worldly space and label it, and it becomes this binary thing of good and bad. But I'm very encouraged to see brotherhood that's being maintained and built in a healthy way. We are seeing conflict resolution. Uguti, guys, if we've got an issue, let's just bring it to the table, and that once again, communicating and resolving conflict, a big part of it, and I think what they're showing us here, and I like the way that Ukulegani MC went about this, was that you need to choose the right time and the right environment to also be having these conversations. You know what I mean? Like, I think if they tried to address it, the two of them on that stage, mid Imbizo, we would have just had Impi, like, for real at the Mbizo, and that was uncalled for. So I really like that they showing us, and this is a demonstration for anybody else who is also watching Uguti. Take notes, I think even the way that Ukulegani MC approached that conversation, he wasn't high up here screaming, shouting, everybody had calmed down, everybody had taken a breath, and it's like, let's sit down and let me lay out the facts. This is the course of the events, and this is what happened. This is what we had actually discussed and we had all agreed to. So now, why are things different from that? Help me understand what's going on here. Beautiful, beautiful conflict resolution in action. Kila Chapela Matoko, my kings. I really do. Loving it. Then we see Unelisani with his mother and the uncles back home Selegu, because the mother still stays at the Selegu residence. She hasn't been brought back to the Mbata side yet. So the uncles are just giving Nelisani and his mother feedback as to how the negotiations went, talking about, that it was settled that it was 9 or 10, but then they eventually settled on 10 cows. And then Nelisa and his mother's like, but like, bruh, there were actually 11 cows that were taken there to the Mbata residence. Well, it was 11 cows and 10 were taken to the Mbata residence, and the 11th cow is supposed to stay here, Ekaya, Kwamseligu. I don't know, but it's cultural the way she's expressing it. So she's like, essentially, it seems now when they're clarifying that the uncles might have agreed to something that was incorrect. And for me, like, this scene left things hanging in the air because we weren't really told, like, what now that we've recognized that, okay, it was incorrect, are we going to negotiate again? Is there going to be another meeting? Like, what's happening? But the mother's comment was just like, we're just happy that at least this process has paved the way for good relations between the two families. High five, high five. We're going to see how this actually plays out as time goes on. Then we move on to Umagazi, who is Kulegani Shongwe's mentee. And, this was something I was concerned about when they brought these mentees on. I understand what we're trying to do and the intention to share the spotlight with other children. But my concern was that now there's going to be other storylines I must follow and other storylines I need to care about. And I think this is a prime example that, like, okay, there's another storyline. Like, we already did, like, Usanele. Now, which means that, the other mentee, I forgot his name now, he's also getting a story this week. Listen, maybe if they just give us like one episode, one story. I can't follow 7 people's storylines in one show. That's just gonna be too much. So Lilona Ditlantarela, for now, I'm still gonna give it to you detailed. But let's see going forward. If the storylines become too much, especially with the mentees, if nothing interesting is happening, I'm just gonna skip over them because you guys are asking for a lot. Give them the platform and the screen time for the music and a little bit of storyline so we can care. But like, it's seeming like now we're getting to like a lot of storyline. You know what I mean? But anyway, Umagazi is having a little ceremony there, Yokpahla, at the house, and he invites all of his sisters. So he's the only man out of all of his siblings. So there were, I think, 4 other sisters who came over. They pattering there. The things are happening. Dogs! It's their feeding time, but like these dogs. Anyway, so we find out there that there is a rift, nyana, like the sisters are not getting along. There's a lot of different issues that are going on, a lot of it from the past, and they don't have their parents anymore. So it's literally just the 5 of them. And sorry, I apologize, guys, for the dogs in the background. Like, just doing a lot. The most with the least. But as I said, it's their feeding time, shame. But not Emma, because let me get through this. Um, and so the sisters, are commenting about it's very nice for us to be together. It's been a long time, and the one sister was like, we believe in you, Magazi, that you're going to be the one to unite this family in the way that it needs to be, because for now it's fractured. And I think it's a beautiful sentiment, but a part of me is also just like, that's a lot of pressure to put on one person because there are 5 adult siblings, all of you together. And to put that on one who is the youngest, he's the youngest out of all of them, to unite them, like that is just, that's a mammoth task. And when she said that, it reminds me of these things that we say to little boys in particular, if their fathers are not there or if they've suffered a loss, that you're the man of the house now. And it's just like, this is still a young boy, and even with Umakazi, yes, he's an adult male, but you can see that there's still things that he needs to learn and do, and to put that responsibility solely on his shoulders when the other 4 of you sisters are elder siblings, it's just like, you've got to come to the party as well. It can't be his sole responsibility to unite all of you. Like, yes, he can be instrumental because he even talks about, that like he wants to do it, but he's like, some of the stuff also happened, when I was a kid and long ago. Some of it I wasn't even there for a while the drama started between you, sister 1 and sister 2. So let's see how it goes. He tells us a little bit about his past and that, in the village he used to be called crazy because back in the days he used to sleep ehlatini, with the animals, and come back home occasionally, and nobody really knew what was wrong with him and what was happening. And so, he gets emotional speaking about some of that trauma as well, because I think he felt like an outsider. And because there was no explanation, like nobody knew why. But for him, he was just like, that's where he felt more comfortable. And he would eat, he'd come back home, maybe, ajamasi here and there, but like, nobody would see him. Which that comment I also didn't understand. Like, you were there while people were out and nobody could see you, as like some sort of illusion that was happening, or you'd come and sneak in the midnight hours when people are asleep and then take the food. I'm not understanding, but like already, this storyline is requiring a lot of engaging of the brain for me. Which, to keep up with all of them, no shade to anybody whose story, all of our stories are important. And I like that, they're giving people exposure. However, as I said, to remember to keep up with, for now, I'm with you guys, but like, don't get carried away, production, ne? Please. Then the final scene, we have Abafana Mqgumeni. So the two brothers are getting together with their nephew, Ulusanda, the one that they'd spoken to the uncles and the elders about. And so Ulusanda was going to arrive with his mother. They get to the venue, the mother comes alone. They're like, and then where's Lusanda? She's like, hi, the car broke down, a shipstini. And yeah, they couldn't leave it there in the middle of the night on the side of the road. So he wasn't able to come today. The two brothers doesn't seem like they're really buying what she's selling, which is the story. But I think they also just like, what are we actually? Re tlo mo phegisa, re tlo mo etsang, o tlo mo gama. Like, what can you do? Because we're here, we're having the meeting, he's not here. So we're just going to have to continue in the best way that we can, even though they both were like, the person we wanted to speak to is Ulusanda, because that's the issues are with him. So, it was sort of like a little bit pointless for them to have the meeting without him there. However, they actually did need to have the meeting, I think, the three adults first. Because what was coming out of it is essentially from the side, yeah, Abafana, and I'm going to lump them in together because, for the purposes of this discussion, I think they share the same sentiments, which is that, Ulusanda is out of line, and we are here to try and speak to him and find out what's going on, and, come to some sort of resolution. Um, and what then comes out though is that, number one, Lusanda's father, who is their elder brother, has not paid any damages for Ulusanda. So the one Abafana tells us that he had started uh, the process, but I don't think there were actually any meetings that were had. There was no money that changed hands. It just seemed like this was something the brother was just like, it would be nice if I could, and let me start thinking about when it came to the damages. Um, and so now they've started noticing that like Ulusanda, avoids the family. His behavior's getting, um, his behavior was starting to get a bit out of order, and then they were busy saying that like they don't understand why this child is avoiding them as them Seleku people. And then the mother stepped in and she was like, no, I have to correct you, because that child was young, so he couldn't think for himself. He couldn't make decisions by himself, so he couldn't have been avoiding you. He was a baby then. It was me, because he falls under my guardianship and my guidance, because I was the mother. So it's not him who was avoiding you. It was me who was avoiding you. And then, soprano, chubby brother comes in and he's like, yeah, yeah, I was getting to that statement as well. Um, I don't know if he was getting to that statement, but essentially there was a distance there that they were now feeling after their brother passed away. Um, and then she says that, like, listen, when Ulusanda's father passed away, I ended up in another country. So she doesn't tell us which country it is. We don't know if it's still in Africa or over the seas. But she was like, I was in another country. We don't know what the circumstances are, but it seemed like there were issues around, like having enough, and circumstances were around, like, I think some poverty going on here. Or maybe she'd gone for work. I'm not sure. They don't give us that information. But she was like, I ended up going to another country, and that she was stuck in that country for a while, and so her gripe is actually with the family that, like, I was in this other country, I was stuck there. That's what I'm saying. We don't know the circumstances, we don't know what happened, why she's stuck, why she can't come back. Is it money? Is it other things? But she's that side, and Ulusanda's still a young baby who's left in South Africa this side. And she's like, eventually, when I came back, I find that Ulusanda was never ever even contacted by anybody from the Mselugu side. I think this was like years after. She's like, you guys didn't contacted him, hadn't even provided anything for him. Like, and you knew that I was out of the country. His only other surviving parent was not there. And so you guys basically didn't step up as a family to be there, and the subtext is then, why do you now want to be stepping up to come and reprimand my child when you couldn't step up to raise him when the time was necessary for him to have family there? Now you just want to call him and slaza him on TV about the things that he's not doing. And I'm glad that mommy was there, because you could see mommy was getting heated. Ooh, Nachisa. She was starting to get very heated sitting there on the kansi on the floor, because you could see there's a lot of things that I think she hasn't been able to speak about that happened in the past. And I can understand why, because it's also like, what is my position here? I had a child with your brother, but like there were no damages, there was no marriage. So essentially, ke ngwana malume on my side. And for me, I also stand with that a little bit. I'm also just like, but like, Vele, where do you guys get, or I don't know how you think you have authority as Abafana to come and tell this boy about what he should and shouldn't be doing when you haven't even paid a single cent yet damages. You haven't even done any sort of ceremony for anything. But you want to come and tell him when he's out of order. Yes, he might be out of order. But lilona lisakolota la shorta on your side with very many things. So I'm with the mother, which is like, how can this be the first conversation that you want us to have regarding my son? Because there are a lot of other things that never happened. And I'm glad that she brought that to the forefront and she called it out, because they were silent when Mami was giving her side of the story. But they never outright acknowledged, and maybe, I don't know, they need to go back to their uncles, or like, you can't be admitting defeat in front of a woman. I don't know. But they never really acknowledged that, okay, yeah, what you're saying actually has merit. But from their silence and from their body language, for me, it was evident that, like, okay, these guys are starting to understand that there's another side of the story, that we need to take into consideration. So I was happy that she did that. And so we don't know where things are going to end. For them, they did say that, they still want to meet with Ulusanda. But I don't know what now you're going to be discussing. I think what the mother didn't deny was Ulusanda's behavior. So, as being out of order or not. So I think maybe there is still some behavior from Lusanda's side. It's Ulenkotseleng. But there are things that you need to do to have the authority and the right to actually interact with this child and to tell him what to do. Because as of now, ke ngwana wa malome on the mother side. So you guys need to then fix this, and then the one, soprano brother at the end was like, yeah, when people are out there, maybe chola, we don't know what's happening and who is she and how far is the relationship gone and all of this other stuff. And granted, I can hear that, but there is still a relationship that you could have been forming. There is still communication that could have been happening between you guys as, Abafana from the Mselegu family and your brother's, the mother of your brother's son. There's still communication that could have been happening. If there was intlaulo that needed to be paid, you guys could have facilitated all of that, because it sounds like Ulusanda is like a grown adult at this point. I don't know how old he is, but I'm getting those vibes, like 20s, teen 20s, somewhere there. So I don't know. I hope for their sake they're able to mend it, so that the mother can feel okay as well, because Lena, she's got some wounds and things from the past, and they can also feel okay. But more than anything, it's about the child here, Ulusanda Wabatu, so that he can then also be okay. Because if the mother's got things on her chest like this, so does he. And I think he also needs to be given a platform to voice that out so that we can know how we go ahead. And that was it for episode 7. So thank you for staying until the end. If you did, congratulations. Go you, superstar. And I hope you enjoyed that review. Let me know your thoughts. Please don't forget to hit notification and to subscribe. Tell your friends. Maskandi Kings is showing us black men are out here. They are healing. They are demonstrating how to be healthy examples of healthy relating in our society. And I am so happy about that. I will continue to praise them. I will continue to hold them up and lift them up in that, because we don't have enough examples of it in our country and in the world. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your attention. And I will see you for episode 8's review. Have a fantastic week. And remember to spread love, not hate. Ciao, darlings.